In the quiet aisles of supermarkets and the bustling corners of health food stores, a quiet revolution has been unfolding, one sweetened not by sugar, but by something far more elusive. For years, a wave of low-carb, keto, and sugar-free products has swept across shelves, promising guilt-free indulgence and metabolic salvation. At the heart of this transformation lies a single ingredient, quietly tucked into ingredient lists, a crystalline powder known as erythritol. Marketed as a miracle sweetener, 0 calories, no blood sugar spike, safe for diabetics, it has become the darling of diet culture, the secret behind sugar-free chocolates, low-carb ice creams, and fizzy sodas that taste like the real thing without the consequences. But beneath the glossy packaging and bold health claims, a new wave of scientific inquiry is revealing a far more complex and troubling story. Recent findings from a leading research institution are sending ripples through the medical and nutritional communities, challenging the long-held assumption that erythritol is a harmless substitute. What was once considered a benign alternative to sugar may, in fact, be quietly influencing the delicate machinery of the human body in ways that could increase the risk of one of the most feared medical emergencies, stroke. The evidence, still emerging, points not to a dramatic or immediate danger, but to a subtle, insidious shift in the function of blood vessels, particularly those in the brain, triggered by exposure to even modest amounts of this widely consumed sweetener. The investigation began not with a dramatic clinical case, but in a laboratory, where human cells were bathed in concentrations of erythritol equivalent to what one might consume in a single serving of a sugar-free beverage. Within just a few hours, profound changes began to unfold. The cells that line the blood vessels in the brain, critical gatekeepers of cerebral circulation, started to behave in ways that mirror early stages of vascular dysfunction. They produced less nitric oxide, a vital molecule that keeps blood vessels relaxed and open, allowing blood to flow freely. At the same time, they began generating more of a powerful vasoconstrictor, a compound that causes vessels to tighten and narrow. The balance, once finely tuned, began to tilt toward constriction, reducing the brain's ability to receive the oxygen and nutrients it needs. Even more alarming was what happened when these cells were challenged with a substance that mimics clot formation. Under normal conditions, the body responds by releasing a natural clot-busting agent, a protein that helps dissolve blockages before they can cause harm. But in cells exposed to erythritol, this protective response was dramatically weakened. The production of the clot-dissolving compound was blunted, suggesting a diminished capacity to respond to one of the most common triggers of stroke. Add to this a surge in reactive oxygen species, unstable molecules that damage cells, accelerate aging, and promote inflammation, and a disturbing picture begins to emerge. The very cells meant to protect the brain from vascular disaster appear to be compromised by a substance many believe to be entirely safe. This cellular evidence does not stand in isolation. It builds upon a growing body of observational research involving thousands of individuals across the United States and Europe, where higher levels of erythritol circulating in the bloodstream were consistently linked to an increased likelihood of major cardiovascular events, including heart attack and stroke, over a 3-year period. At first, these findings puzzled researchers. How could a substance with no caloric value and minimal metabolic impact be associated with such serious health outcomes? The new laboratory data offers a compelling answer. Erythritol may not be metabolically inert after all. Instead, it appears to interact directly with the vascular system, nudging it toward a state of heightened vulnerability. The implications are profound. Erythritol is not a rare or niche ingredient. It is found in hundreds of products, from chewing gum and protein bars to powdered drink mixes and dessert toppings. It is often blended with other sweeteners to mask its slight cooling aftertaste, making it even more pervasive. And because it is derived from natural sources, typically through the fermentation of corn starch, it carries an aura of wholesomeness, further reinforcing the belief that it is harmless. Consumers, particularly those managing diabetes or trying to lose weight, have embraced it without hesitation, assuming that sugar-free equates to health-promoting. But this assumption may be flawed. What makes this discovery especially concerning is the context in which erythritol is typically consumed. People who use sugar substitutes are often doing so out of a desire to improve their health, to avoid the well-documented dangers of excessive sugar intake, obesity, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease. Yet in their effort to sidestep one set of risks, they may be unknowingly exposing themselves to another. The irony is not lost on researchers. A compound marketed as a tool for metabolic health may, under certain conditions, contribute to vascular disease, the very condition many are trying to prevent. The science of sweeteners has long been fraught with contradictions. For decades, artificial and non-nutritive sweeteners were promoted as safe and effective tools for weight management and glycemic control. Yet over time, a series of studies began to suggest otherwise. Some linked these substances to altered gut microbiomes, increased appetite, and even paradoxical weight gain. Others pointed to potential disruptions in insulin signaling and glucose metabolism, despite the absence of sugar. Erythritol, as a sugar alcohol, was thought to be different, less likely to interfere with metabolic pathways because it is poorly absorbed and mostly excreted unchanged in urine. But the new findings suggest that even minimal absorption or direct contact with vascular tissues may be enough to trigger adverse effects. One of the most unsettling aspects of this research is how quickly the changes occur. The study exposed cells to erythritol for just 3 hours, roughly the time it takes to digest and circulate a beverage. And yet, within that short window, the molecular signature of vascular dysfunction began to take shape. This raises questions about the cumulative impact of daily consumption. For someone who drinks a sugar-free soda in the morning, snacks on a keto bar at lunch, and enjoys a no-sugar-added dessert at dinner, the exposure could be repeated multiple times a day. Over time, the body may never fully recover, existing in a state of chronic, low-grade vascular stress. The brain, with its high demand for oxygen and limited capacity to withstand interruptions in blood flow, may be especially vulnerable. It is important to emphasize that this research is still in its early stages. The experiments were conducted in a controlled laboratory setting, not in living humans. Cells in a dish do not perfectly replicate the complexity of a functioning circulatory system, where multiple organs, feedback loops, and regulatory mechanisms interact in real time. Moreover, the concentration of erythritol used, while reflective of real-world consumption, may not account for individual differences in metabolism, genetics, or baseline health. Some people may process the sweetener more efficiently, while others, particularly those with pre-existing vascular conditions, may be more susceptible to its effects. Still, the consistency between the cellular findings and the broader epidemiological trends cannot be ignored. When population studies and lab experiments converge on the same conclusion, it signals that the observed effect is not a fluke, but a pattern worthy of serious attention. Regulatory agencies, including the Food and Drug Administration, have long classified erythritol as generally recognized as safe, based on decades of use and a lack of acute toxicity. But safety assessments often focus on short-term outcomes and overt harm, not on subtle, long-term shifts in physiological function. As science advances, so too must our understanding of what it means for a substance to be safe. This revelation also forces a broader reckoning with the way we think about food and health. In an era obsessed with optimization, tracking macros, and eliminating sugar, there is a tendency to view ingredients in binary terms, good or bad, healthy or harmful. Erythritol was placed firmly in the good category, celebrated for what it lacks, calories, glycemic impact, rather than what it does. But the human body does not respond to absence, it responds to presence. Every substance that enters the system, no matter how inert it seems, has the potential to interact with biological pathways in ways that are not always predictable. The story of erythritol is not unique. It echoes past experiences with other additives once deemed harmless, trans fats, artificial colors, certain preservatives, that were later found to carry hidden risks. It serves as a reminder that the food industry's ability to engineer palatable, low-calorie alternatives does not automatically make them beneficial. Health cannot be reduced to a single metric, such as calorie count or sugar content. True well-being depends on a complex interplay of nutrients, hormones, microbiota, and cellular function, none of which operate in isolation. For consumers, the message is not one of panic, but of awareness. There is no need to throw out every sugar-free product in the pantry, but there is value in reading labels, understanding ingredients, and questioning the assumption that sugar-free means risk-free. Natural does not always mean safe, and synthetic does not always mean dangerous. The key lies in moderation and informed choice. Just as excessive sugar consumption carries well-documented risks, so too might excessive reliance on artificial or alternative sweeteners. The food industry, too, must take note. As demand for low-sugar products continues to grow, companies have a responsibility to ensure that the substitutes they use are not only palatable but also physiologically sound. Transparency is essential. If erythritol is present in a product, it should be clearly labeled, not hidden under vague terms like sugar alcohols or natural flavors. And ongoing research should be supported, not dismissed, so that potential risks can be identified before they become public health issues. Looking ahead, the next phase of investigation will be critical. Researchers are now calling for longitudinal studies that track individuals over time, monitoring erythritol intake, blood levels, and cardiovascular outcomes. Clinical trials may explore whether consuming erythritol-containing products leads to measurable changes in blood vessel function, clotting ability, or inflammatory markers. Genetic factors may also play a role. Some people may be more sensitive to erythritol's effects than others, depending on their metabolic profile or vascular health. In the meantime, the conversation around sweeteners is shifting. No longer can they be viewed as neutral players in the diet. Each one, whether aspartame, sucralose, stevia, or erythritol, carries its own chemical signature and biological footprint. The goal should not be to eliminate sweetness from life, but to approach it with greater wisdom. Perhaps the sweetest choice is not the one with 0 calories, but the one made with intention, balance, and respect for the body's intricate design. As the evidence continues to unfold, one thing is becoming increasingly clear: the quest for the perfect sugar substitute may be a mirage. Nature evolved to crave sweetness as a signal of energy-dense food, and bypassing that signal with artificial means may come at a cost. The human body is not designed to process endless waves of sweet taste without caloric consequence. Even when the calories are absent, the physiological response may still be triggered, setting off a cascade of events that we are only beginning to understand. In the end, the story of erythritol is not just about a single ingredient. It is about the limits of technological solutions to complex biological problems. It is about the unintended consequences of well-meaning innovations. And it is about the enduring truth that health cannot be engineered away. It must be cultivated, carefully and thoughtfully, one choice at a time. As consumers navigate an increasingly complex food landscape, they deserve more than marketing claims and health halos. They deserve transparency, science, and the freedom to make informed decisions about what they put into their bodies. And if that means rethinking the sweetness in their coffee, their snacks, their sodas, then so be it. Because sometimes, the safest choice is the one that comes not from a lab, but from nature itself. If you found this deep dive into the hidden risks of erythritol eye-opening, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss the next video where we uncover the truth behind the foods we think are healthy. And if you know someone who's into keto, low-carb, or sugar-free living, share this with them. Knowledge is power, and sometimes, the sweetest things come with a price we never saw coming. Thanks for watching.